Captain's log.
Han Solo. I'm Captain of the Millennium Falcon.
This is Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation starship Enterprise.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
You're listening to Captain's Logs and Lightsabers.
Hey, welcome to Captain's Logs and Lightsabers. This is the podcast on Feast of Fandoms, where we discuss both Star Trek and Star Wars in the same show. Chris and I, my co-host, were fans of both franchises, so we decided what better way to get into podcasting but by talking about two of the things that we love most. So if this is your first time listening, thank you for joining. And if you are a long-time listener, thanks for coming back. So I'm going to kick things off by introducing my co-host, Chris, and give him a chance to just, say whatever he wants to. It's been a little while since we recorded, so here we are catching up.
I am doing quite well. How are you doing?
Pretty good, man.
Since our last show, it's been a pretty busy number of weeks over on my end. Had to get my gallbladder removed unexpectedly, had the flu, and then I'm just finishing up a week-long sinus infection. So it's been nuts on my end.
Yeah, you've had quite a lot of health stuff in the past several years since we've been doing this show.
Yes. A lot of it's mostly it's usually COVID or, some sort of bad cold or something. This year, surgery got added into the mix.
2024.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, 2024 said you thought it was bad the past couple years.
Exactly. So I'm praying that as we hit the 25th year of the 2000s, things are going to get a little better health-wise.
Let's hope.
But what have you been up to since we last recorded?
Honestly, not a whole lot. I mean, I picked up a part-time job over the summer. I don't know if I ever discussed that on the show, but
No,
that's something that, we weren't able to save as much as we normally could before getting laid off in the summer. So I ended up taking a job in July delivering pizzas for Domino's. And so I've been doing that several days or 2 to 3 days a week, most weeks, in addition to my other job. So that, that keeps me busy. And then we've gone to lots of movies, of course, as we always do. We do love going to the movies. So the most recent one that we saw was Moana 2. And before that, we saw Wicked.
Oh, okay. Very nice. Very nice. My wife and I also saw Wicked on Black Friday. So I was just wondering, what'd you think of it?
I thought it was incredible. I really wasn't sure how I was going to take to Ariana Grande specifically as Glinda, but she nailed the role. I really thought that, from the time that I heard they cast Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, I knew she was going to nail it. I was not concerned about her. It was just, I didn't know how she was going to play against Ariana Grande, because I'm not as much of I don't know as much about her music or her acting as some people do. So I was a little confused at first when they cast her, but she did well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. I think she, like you said, she knocked it out of the park. And the actress playing Elphaba, she did a really wonderful job. Her voice was amazing in her songs. That she was singing, it was incredible. I think Michelle Yeoh, kind of tying it into Star Trek here, she did a really good job as that sorceress. There was at the university. She did a really great job. Jeff Goldblum did a great job as the wizard, and what they set up to go into the next movie. I'm more excited, I think, about the second part than what I saw in part one.
Mm-hmm. And, I don't know if you're familiar with the story of Wicked at all. If you've ever seen the show or read the book that the show was based on. Yeah, things are going to really, take a turn, and you're gonna see a lot of the resolution from things that were set up in the first one. You're gonna find out how the Wicked Witch gets her reputation, and you can kind of see how the whole. Well, I don't know if we want to talk spoilers yet, if you're not familiar with the story, for those of you that are listening. But just know that everything that was set up in the first one is going to have a payoff.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. I'm glad to see, because I went into this with a complete blank slate. I had no clue. So it was just like, wow, this is a totally different spin on this story that I've ever seen before. So, yeah, I think part 2 is going to be, another year away, right?
Yes, it comes out, I believe, in September.
I thought I read it was November 21st
or maybe,
of next
you know
year.
what? Maybe it is. Maybe you're right.
Yeah, I think
you're probably right.
I think you know who actually posted it was my ship's captain of the Stella Pariah.
Okay.
She said, "Here we go, guys. Next activity already a year of plan." So it's like, okay.
All right. So we've both seen Wicked. We both really enjoyed it. I'm a huge fan of the original show. I was very familiar with the show and the music and everything. I had never read the book, but everything else I'm very familiar with. So I really had high expectations, and I'm glad that they were exceeded.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So we are going to now go into Fandom Frontier, and this is the segment of the show where Chris and I get to talk about something that's not Star Trek or Star Wars. We kind of already had a little bit of a discussion on Wicked, so that was going to be my Fandom Frontier. So I'm going to shoot it to Chris and let him take over.
Well, to be honest with you, since last show, or in the last week or so, besides Wicked, I haven't really done anything nerd-wise. I did a review of the 30th anniversary of Star Trek Generations on my small YouTube channel, Pittsburgh's Trek Chat. I did that about 2 weeks ago. But beyond that, really not much else. The big event, and we're both going to it, is this coming weekend at Steel City Con on December 6th through the 8th. So that's going to be the bigger kind of thing. But let me ask you about this. I know there are a couple people from the Star Wars universe that are going to be coming to Steel City Con.
Yeah.
So most of them are voice actors or actresses from the cartoons. But I know Tamora Morrison is coming from the Book of Boba Fett, right? And he played Jango Fett in the movies. We know that. But,
right.
So are you planning on getting any photo ops or meeting anybody?
I am not sure. I would not mind meeting Matt Lanter, who voiced Anakin in the Clone Wars. I'm a fan of not only him from his portrayal of Anakin, but there was the show on NBC several years ago that I really, really got into called Timeless. And he was one of the main stars of that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I don't know if you can stream it anywhere, but it's like a time travel show, almost kind of like Quantum Leap, but without the leaping into another person's body. People go back in time and they have to ensure that certain events happen the way that they were supposed to, or they may be able to change historical events to affect the outcome. But he was like this military guy who was brought part of this time travel team.
Well, that sounds interesting. I never got into it. The crappy part about my work schedule is I'm never home. I usually don't get home till 10 o'clock at night, most work days. So I'm never here to see like a lot of the new shows. I barely even get to watch any shows that I really like that I've watched over the years.
Yeah.
That's kind of a luxury, So the fact that you're able to get to watch that, it sounds like a pretty cool show.
I live off of my DVR, so
I don't blame you. It's just, that's just part of adulting and having to work,
right.
Trying to find the time to get to enjoy these little nuggets of things, so, but yeah, really on my end, I'm looking around my man cave trying to see like if there's anything I've done. I bought the next to the last issue of Star Trek Explorer magazine. It's going to be ending at the end of the year after 14 issues. And I guess really what it came down to is just sales started to go down. Everything's going digital now, so I guess there was just no real profit in it anymore. Which is, it's a shame because I've been subscribing on and off to different Star Trek magazines since I was a kid. Starting with Star Trek: The Official Fan Club, which became the Star Trek Communicator, then moving into these ones that Titan Magazine did. It's sad seeing that dying off again. So I'm hoping someday somebody will pick the license up and start it again.
Yeah, and it's a shame because that's happening all over. It's not just fandom magazines like that. It's, Entertainment Weekly stopped printing a magazine. Like they only have a website now. And one of the biggest like magazines for gamers, Game Informer, they stopped earlier this year. They stopped entirely. Like they don't even have a website or anything anymore where they, like Entertainment Weekly does. So print media like that and print like magazines are just, they're not doing well.
Yeah. It's sad. I don't know. Like, I'm one of those physical media kind of people. I love to hold that stuff, whether it's, DVDs, Blu-rays, magazines, whatever. It's such a change from what we've grown up with.
Yeah, and I mean, physical media is at least making a comeback, which is nice because people are realizing that the initial promises of streaming, where everything was going to be available at all times and, it was never going to disappear, that's not true. Licensing agreements between the studios and, I mean, even companies like Disney who, they put a lot of money into their Disney Plus series. They've removed shows from that platform already. Like new stuff that they created specifically for that platform is gone. So physical media is making a comeback because, people just want to watch their favorites. Exactly.
And, it's happening with the Star Trek movies, too. How many times have they been moved off Paramount Plus where you would think they'd have a permanent home? What was it? Where'd they move to at one point? It was Max and then Netflix and then...
all over the place, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it was wild, so... But yeah, I'm glad that it's starting to have a little bit of a comeback. So, what I thought was interesting, we went Black Friday shopping early at a mall a couple days ago. And one of the mall we went to, South Hills Village, just opened up a brand new FYE store. And I thought those stores were dying out because of,
yeah.
So it was like a brand new store just opened. So we went in, they had no physical media at all, except vinyl. That was it. No CDs, no DVD, Blu-ray, nothing but vinyl. And the rest of it was just like a collectible store.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's sad.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when Suncoast Video closed.
I know, that was devastating.
Because that was the only place you could get like widescreen. If you went to your local Walmart and wanted the Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition, the only version they had was the standard 4x3. For the old square, old style like square televisions.
Yep.
If you wanted the versions that didn't have the side wings cut out of the picture, you had to get the widescreen, and you could only get that at a specialty store like Suncoast.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all you have to do is go to Amazon.
That's right.
And pretty much everything comes in widescreen format now because all the TVs are widescreen.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So.
Absolutely. Thank goodness for that. I used to hate the widescreen. I used to hate those black strips at the top because I was so used to filling the whole screen.
Mm-hmm.
Then I didn't realize until later on, I was like, wow, you see more of what's going on in the movie.
Right.
When it's widescrreen. So now it's like, I want it that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, wow. So that was a very interesting segue.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that definitely took some twists and turns that I was not expecting.
No, but it was a fun way to nerd for a few minutes.
Right. All right. So before we get into our main topic, and Chris kind of sort of teased it a little bit earlier, before we get into our main discussion today, Chris, you took a little road trip a few weeks ago to New Jersey.
Yes. Yeah. My wife and I went to Secaucus.
So what in the world took you to Secaucus, New Jersey? Please.
So it was actually a Star Trek convention. It was nice. It was the first Star Trek convention for creation and entertainment that I've gotten to go to since 2021. And that one was also in New Jersey, but I think it was in a different city. But this one we went to, and it was loaded with some really top-notch Star Trek celebrities. And I decided, I have a big collection or not super big, but I've got like 14 photo ops that I've had over the years of the different people.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided I was going to save money and I was going to try to get a big lump of them all at once. And I ended up saving enough money, over $1,000. I saved my co-pays from work.
Nice.
Over a couple months and ended up getting 16 photo ops with the celebrities. So,
I knew you did a lot. I did not know that 16 was the number.
16 was the number. Yes. So some of the ones I got were, let's see, Jonathan Frakes, Michael Dorn, Marina Sirtis, Todd Stashwick. Let's see who else. Jeffrey Combs, Casey Biggs, Vaughn Armstrong, Max Grujenchik. The young lady who played Renee Picard, her name is, I'm blanking on the name.
Mm-hmm.
I got a picture with her. Let's see, Dawn Lewis, she does Captain Freeman's voice on Star Trek Lower Decks. But I also wanted to get that picture because I remember her playing Jaleesa back in the 1980s and 90s sitcom A Different World. So
oh my.
Yeah, so to me, that was like, yeah, this is great. You know, I got like a 2-for-1 with her. And then, see, Tawny Newsome I got, J.G. Hertzler. Oh,
Martok.
And, yep, got me some Martok. Let's see who else. Oh, man. Oh, Robin Curtis, who played Savick in Star Trek 3 and 4. Yes, she was a sweetheart. She was the first picture I got, and she asked my name, shook my hand. She was amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you had a little bit more of a back and forth compared to other photo ops.
A little bit. It depended on the situation, but it was always them who initiated it.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Dawn Lewis, again, who, you know, she actually, I was the first in her line. And when she came in, she was in such a good mood. She saw me and she started singing to me. And I'm like, what? Huh? Oh, another one I got was her, Melanie Smith. She was the third actress to play Tora Ziyal on Deep Space Nine. And she was another one who, she actually started dancing with me. I was like, and you didn't want to see me bust in the movie before, but just to do it with her because she initiated it, I was like, okay, this is great. So, but there were a couple other people like I got 16 altogether. And another fun thing that happened at the convention was that I was runner-up in a Star Trek trivia contest.
Oh, okay. So do you remember the question that you lost on?
Yes. So it was the name of Grand Nagus Zek's son was named Kras, Kras. And I got it confused. I thought that was General Martok's son. But it wasn't. But General Martok's son was actually named Drex. So I got it messed up. It was Kras, and I said no. So that's where I messed up. I missed a $100 gift certificate. But hey, you know, it was still fun to be on stage and do that kind of stuff. So that way it was worth it. You know, we got to tour a little bit of the city, and I've never been to New York City. So actually getting to look we can actually see the skyline of New York City from Secaucus. It was the coolest thing. And then also on the Friday that we were there, we went into, was it Outback Steakhouse? I think it was. And the lady sat us down. 2 booths behind my wife were Vaughn Armstrong, Jeffrey Combs, and Casey Biggs. I was like, holy cow. I made sure because I didn't want to be that fan that was going to be like, oh, they're going to like stare and geek out. So I just kind of sat was at my booth. I basically just stared at Brandy the entire time. I was like, I don't want them thinking I'm creeping out on them or anything, but that was the coolest thing, you know, just to see them just having a regular meal like anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think most stars like that, you know, they wouldn't mind you saying hi, but they don't want you to spend a bunch of time at their table asking them inane questions or, you know, interrupting them while they're trying to enjoy a peaceful meal. But, you know, if you walk past their table and just kind of gave them an acknowledgement or a nod or a wave, you know, I'm sure they'd be okay with that.
Oh, sure. I'm sure. I just wanted to play it safe.
Yeah.
my fear whenever I meet these people is I'm going to do something dumb and it's going to ruin my experience for the, you know, the memory of it. So I try to be very calm, cool, and collected anytime I meet them.
Anxiety is wonderful, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's a real blast. Totally. You know, so that was a lot of fun. They weren't planning on bringing another convention back to New Jersey for next year, but because of the good turnout that they had, they actually decided they're going to come back to New Jersey next year.
And this is Creation, I assume.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And they're the one that ran Star Trek Las Vegas all those years, right?
Yeah, they still do. Yes, it's just they don't have the official license now from CBS.
Right. Because CBS gave it to the same ones that did Star Wars Celebration. and then they canceled the one and only
Yes.
convention they were going to have, the Star Trek Mission Chicago, right?
Yes. Yeah, it was Mission Chicago, and then I think they were supposed to do Mission Seattle, and then it got canceled.
That's right. So they did Chicago, but Seattle got canceled. That's right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then now nobody has the license, or ReedPop still does, I guess.
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah. I keep keeping my fingers crossed that Creation's going to get it again, because that convention in Vegas, man, is top notch.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been to it since they lost the license. I see pictures though; it just doesn't seem to have the same feel. And I mean, I could be wrong. It's just from an outside perspective, having gone 3 times. They just like certain things, like they don't have Quark's bar anymore, and they don't have like the official Borg alcoves, like things that they used to have. But it still would be fun to go. And Brandy and I are actually talking about going back to Vegas in 2026 for the 60th anniversary Star Trek convention.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah. So whether they have the license or not, who knows? But it'll be cool.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm glad you had a good time. Like I said, I had no idea that you got 16 photo ops. I knew I've been following you on Facebook and kind of seeing the things that you had posted, but I just must have lost count or not seen all the posts because, Facebook doesn't like to show you everything.
Exactly. Only one other person beat me out. He had 17.
I mean, that's still impressive. Like,
yes. You know what though? It is the most exhausting thing because I had to go back left and right. I mean, for hours.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, like a lot of them were like one after the other. So it was like I was exhausted by the end of the trip.
Oh, but I can imagine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So you and I were going to Steel City Con over the weekend. Any photo ops planned there, or?
As of now, no. Now, originally, Laurie Metcalf and Sarah Gilbert from Roseanne and the Connors were supposed to be there. I think they had scheduling conflicts, so they had to cancel. Those two I would have gotten because next to Star Trek, Roseanne was like my obsession growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
Show.
Yeah, that was such a great show.
It was. It really was. So they're gone. So I'm debating whether or not to get Tamora Morrison.
I mean, yeah, that would certainly be worth it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I don't know if I'd want to do a photo op or get something autographed though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, are you more of an autograph person, or are you more?
Honestly, I'm not really either. I've only really done one professional photo op, and that was with Giancarlo Esposito and Ming-Na Wen, and that was at not the last Steel City Con, but the one in the spring.
Okay. That
we went to, and I've never done autographs either. Like, waited in a line like that and paid for an autograph, but I don't know. I think I know you get a little bit more time to interact with the stars when you do autographs.
Yeah.
Than you do with a photo op.
That is true. Yeah. In the photo op, you're seeing them for like 3 seconds and then out, on to the next one. That's why when you asked me on Facebook if I had told Todd Stashwick that we had tried to get the interview before the strike, I said I wasn't able to because I had 3 seconds.
Yeah, I didn't figure. I was more doing this because I
know why you were asking. Yeah.
I mean, I know how little time you have from
Yeah.
You have to have that one thing planned that you want to say, and
exactly. And really, all I did was hi and put my hand out.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's cool as hell, though.
Oh yeah. He's definitely a nerd's nerd, and
yes,
that's why I was so excited to talk to him. But unfortunately, that SAG-AFTRA strike just threw a wrench in that plan. And
absolutely,
I don't know if we'll ever get that opportunity again, but I want to try. Now I have to make it a mission to try.
Yes, I hear what you mean. All right. So again, anything else with you about Steel City Con that you're excited about?
No, I'm kind of excited for some of the panels because I love the Q&As. I think it's fun to get to listen to people ask questions to the stars and hearing the stories that they have around them. I usually try to throw out a couple questions depending on who it is, and I always have a good time in the Q&A panels. Those are fun. I can't remember specifically which one I'm most excited for, but I mean, there's the Star Wars Clone Wars one. So,
what about the American Pie reunion?
I did like the original movies. I like the first few. I don't know. I probably haven't watched an American Pie movie in, oh gosh, at least 10 years. But I remember, those kind of came out right at the tail end of my high school career and right in going into college. So it kind of hit for me at the right time, which was kind of cool. But yeah, I just haven't really given those movies a thought in 10 plus years.
Exactly. Yeah. I haven't seen any of them in a while either, but boy, do they bring back some memories, because the first one came out in between graduating high school and starting at Cal. So right there in 1999. So it was, so those, I mean, even their class, like their characters graduated class in 99. So it was I was like right in their age group. So it'll be cool to see them on stage and hear about some of the things they have to say. I think who's going to be there? Tara Reid, Thomas Ian Nichols, Sean, what's Stifler? What the hell?
Sean William Scott.
There you go. Sean William Scott. And I think there might be one. Oh, Shermanator is going to be there.
Yes, he was added, but I saw that Eddie K. Thomas, who played Shitbreak, the one that actually, the one that slept with Stifler's mom, he's not going to be there. He canceled.
Oh, that stinks.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed when I saw that he had just, he had to cancel. But
yeah, so even though there's not anybody I really want to necessarily get a photo up with, there are a few people. The panels will still be fun to watch. Either way, you don't always have to go and get that one picture or whatever. Just fun to see the people in general just talking and sharing memories. So
yeah, and it's I don't know. I only missed the last Steel City Con, but it feels like it's been so long since I've been to one, and I only sat one out.
Yep. I'm surprised how fast they went this year. This whole year just flew.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's not a bad thing, right?
No. Hopefully 2025 will bring a lot of happiness for a lot of people.
Yes, let's hope. We shall see. So, okay. So what do you say we move on to our topic of discussion for this episode?
Sure, absolutely.
Don't get technical with me.
Archie, it is the beginning of the wisdom of Varys, not the end.
The Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and events.
Okay, so Chris, you kind of teased this a little bit, towards the beginning of the show, but November was the 30th anniversary of the first feature film to have the Next Generation crew, and that's Star Trek Generations. But it was kind of a nice little handoff because you had crew from the original series in parts of the movie in addition to the Next Generation crew. So a very good way to appeal to fans of the original crew and and give them a final send off, as well as introduce the film going world to the Next Generation crew. So it's the 30th anniversary of that film. And Chris, I know you said that you did an episode of Pittsburgh's Trek Chat all about it, but I wanted to, discuss that here on our show because it gave me a reason to watch Star Trek Generations again, a film that I probably haven't seen since I was in college. So,
wow, so it's been about 20 years since you've seen it.
Probably because I had watched all of the feature films after I got really got into Star Trek in college. But I just remember at the time, maybe I didn't have enough appreciation for the characters. But at the time, I just I didn't really enjoy the movie, I guess. But I was eager to watch it again, having seen pretty much everything that Trek has produced, including all of the new series, and I wanted to give it a new set of eyes. So thank you for reminding me that this is the 30th anniversary, so we could talk about it and I could watch it again.
Absolutely. So I've been dying to ask you, since you said you rewatched it, what are your thoughts now, 20 years on?
I thought it was I thought it was a really, really fun Star Trek film. I mean, I don't know why it got so much hate, when upon initial release, because I loved, there were so many things that I picked out that I really enjoyed. I guess the first thing that I noticed was that quick cameo from Tim Russ. I recognized his voice, and I knew that it was Tuvok, but I didn't see the Vulcan ears. So, and of course, it was in the 23rd century, not the 24th century that Tuvok would have been in. So, yeah, I was just like, I knew the voice. I'm like, that's Tim Russ. Okay, that was really cool. I forgot about the emotion chip with Data. I still don't like the first part of that where after the chip goes all weird. I don't know. I don't know what Brent Spiner's directions were for that sequence, but I just didn't like the portrayal of the character of Data. So still that still just didn't resonate with me. But what do you think of that? That particular plot point of the film.
So there are several different thoughts I have about it. So I enjoyed that they used the movies to expand Data, and using the emotion chip was key in that. And we got to see a lot of that be expanded on in First Contact as well. But I think they did a better job of it in First Contact.
Yes.
I think they used it for too much. I think the comedic stuff went too far in Generations, and it ended up kind of making some groaning moments. And it's like, Data, shut up. When they're on the Amargosa Observatory trying to open up the door to the solar probe, and he's just laughing, and there's Mr. Tricorder. It gets old after a while.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they really didn't have much direction and they just kind of let Brent Spiner do his thing, because I mean, I have to imagine he's pretty good at ad-libbing or improv.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, that whole part on the bridge before the Klingon attack where he's singing life forms on his control panel, that was all improvised. They didn't. That was not in the script. He ended up doing it. They filmed it and put it in.
Yeah. I just had that feeling that he's one of those classically trained actors that could probably really improv well and completely deviate from the script, and it could be better than what's initially written.
Absolutely. I mean, he did really well with with what he had. But like I said, I think when it went on into First Contact, he seemed to be a little bit more serious with it. Like he was using it to experience the anxiety when he was starting to go near the Borg, but he shut it right off. But then the Borg Queen ended up using it as a way to manipulate him into kind of serving her as the movie went on.
Yeah.
So it made more sense there. But I'm glad that they brought it in because it was the beginning way for Data to grow. Now, they didn't use it in Insurrection, which was kind of odd. They just mentioned it one time, and then in Nemesis, it wasn't brought up at all. So it's kind of ambiguous whether or not he had it in him or on or what.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess they just decided not to make it a part of the script or give it any attention, but I guess maybe we're just supposed to believe that it was there and it was functioning properly and much more subtle than when he initially applied it.
Right. And here's another thought possibly too is for Generations, First Contact, and Insurrection, there were 2 years in between the movies. After Insurrection, there was a 4-year gap before Nemesis hits, and maybe the plot point just kind of got forgotten and lost. I mean, it's fun to speculate. In the end, it really doesn't matter. But it's interesting. But I think I'm glad they put it in. I'll just say that.
Yeah. This time watching it, I really paid attention and caught the line where Jean-Luc Picard, he was talking, he was processing his grief over Robert and Renee passing away. And the one line that he says that there'll be no more Picards, obviously we know that's not true anymore.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. It's amazing how when that was made, you had no clue that in 30 years they were going to bring his actual son in with Dr. Crusher.
Right. So the Picard bloodline still carries on.
Yep. And now even, the big thing that happened in the movie besides Kirk was the Enterprise D being destroyed, which was a beautiful sequence. I mean, they did a really good job filming that and putting all that together. But now we know the Enterprise D survived, which was really cool. For years, I just thought they left the saucer behind and that was it. But all these years, it was being rebuilt and then given a new star drive section. So that was, and it got a real resting place. That
Yes.
deserved.
Yes. And it was critical. It was integral to resolving the conflict with the Borg in Picard. So.
Absolutely. So yeah. So the Enterprise E and the D both got to do some Borg stuff in the movies and going on into Picard.
Yes. Of course, Malcolm McDowell is always a treat to see, as Soren, but he's just such a great villain. Anytime he pops up in a villain role, it's going to be stellar.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, he really knocked it out of the park. And what's interesting about him being in this role? There are two conflicting stories about his thought with this. So what drew him to the project was he wanted to be the one to kill Captain Kirk. That was big for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I know I'm going to be, now I'll be going to conventions and I'll be a trivia question and answer. But that was, I found that. So I saw that in the research I was doing. But there's also areas where he basically said that he thought the script was shit. Those are his words, that was his word, not mine.
Yeah, that sounds like something McDowell would say. Yeah,
exactly. So he didn't seem thrilled with the script, but he knows he was going to have such an important piece of Trek history.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, he put his all into the role, definitely.
Mm-hmm. I do wanted to circle back around to the saucer section crash landing on the planet and how good that still looks today. Like, and it just goes to show you that with all of the computer generated graphics and everything that can be done with CGI, it will never ever replace practical effects for their longevity and the fact that they still look good regardless of the age of the movie. I mean, look at the original Star Wars. We're talking, almost 50 years now. We're 3 years shy of the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, and wow. Right. And the practical effects, the dog fights, everything still looks good in Star Wars because of the practical effects. And just like with Star Wars, the Generations. Paramount had ILM come in and do the special effects for the film.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, if you want to actually watch them, how they did the saucer crash on the Generations DVD and on the Blu-ray and their special features, they have a whole thing that shows that whole sequence of how they did it with the models and stuff. I don't know if you have them on physical media or not, but there's the whole thing.
I don't think that I do. Or, what? I don't know. I will have to go and look, honestly. I may have it. I'm fairly certain that I bought all of them at some point on some format. More than likely DVD, if I had to guess. So
now, it would not be on the original DVD release that was like in the late 90s.
Okay.
It's like the special edition one that came out around 2002, 2003, something like that.
Yeah, and I have no idea which version I own.
Okay. Yeah. If it's the 2-disc version, then you should be fine.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know. Mm-hmm. So, the one thing that I don't know. Again, I don't know if I just hadn't been as familiar with the characters. I think I had seen Generations before I had really watched all of Star Trek: The Next Generation. So I thought it was really fun to see Lursa and B'Etor being involved in the movie, and of course their ultimate fate just couldn't have happened to nicer people.
Yes, exactly. They deserved it very much so. It was great that they brought them back for one last little adventure because they were a great duo, a sister duo.
You love to hate them.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and who does not love the part in Generations where they're looking at Dr. Crusher and they're showing their rotted out teeth and saying how human females are so repulsive. It was perfect. It was perfect. Now, there was actually plans. They weren't originally going to kill off Lursa and B'Etor. They were actually going to have survived. The two of them and a handful of the Klingons on the ship were supposed to have transported down to Viridian 3 when the ship got destroyed. And they were going to end up meeting some of the Enterprise survivors in it, and they're going to have some sort of battle in a jungle. is what I found out, but they nixed that.
Okay. Any particular reason why they ended up nixing it?
Not from what I could see in the research. Used Memory Alpha as the primary source for the behind the scenes stuff, and they didn't really say anything about it. Just that it was a little piece that originally they had considered.
Got it. Okay. I mean, I imagine that you really didn't need to have that scene, and I understand it makes sense from, if you're trying to edit unnecessary stuff out of a movie and still preserve the main plot, something like that doesn't need to occur. Their death in the explosion, more than sufficient.
Absolutely. I guess there was no real point to continue the characters on. I mean, Next Generation was over, Deep Space Nine was going off with the Dominion and everything, and then you had Voyager, they were lost on the other side of the galaxy, so they really weren't needed anymore.
Right, exactly.
Now, let me ask you this. Again, we're 30 years out from this movie coming out. So, watching it again recently, really, the theme, the concept of time being a predator is really hit me this time around. I was thinking, when I first came out, I had just turned 14, and I was in 8th grade. Now we're at the 30th anniversary. I just turned 44. And I was sitting back going, wow, time really is marching on. Now, I don't necessarily see time as a predator like Soren did. It's just something that we all have to live with and go through.
Yeah.
But in the last couple of years, losing my father-in-law, losing one of my best friends, you start to see changes. You start seeing time catching up with you a little bit. And if we're, honestly to say it, we're half, at least I'll say for me, half my life is gone if I live up to into my 80s,
Yeah.
So, so it's starting to catch up. And I know I'm hopefully not at the point yet where Picard said there are fewer days ahead than there are behind. But you sit back and it's like time's catching up to you. You're starting to move up to the head of the line when it comes to, people starting to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And we reflect on that more now.
Yeah, it's very sobering to really think about that line 30 years later. And I mean, I don't know how to articulate this. I have had way too many experiences with death, and from such a young age too. It's marked my life in quite a significant way. I've lost. I mean, before turning 40, I've basically lost the vast majority of my family, my parents. My biological mother passed away when I was in my 20s. My parents, the ones that essentially adopted me, one passed away when I was in my late 20s, and then the other passed away in February. My dad passed away in February of 2020. Plus like aunts and uncles, like family members and stuff. I don't know if I have anyone left to grieve other than, my wife's family, of course. It's weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm just numb to death. Unlike you, where, things are hitting you, later in your life.
Yeah. I mean, before my father-in-law died 2 years ago, and then my best friend from my college years, he died. He was 41 last year. And before that was my grandma, my one grandma. She was like 27 when she passed away. My other grandma died when I was 9, but she had so many health ailments that we really didn't know her very well. Yeah. And both of my grandfathers were not around with even my parents. So, and my parents are still alive, so I've lost a few maybe little uncles sprinkled in here and there. But like when my father-in-law died, man, that was just like, holy cow. Yeah. He had been around my whole adult life, and it's just gone. Right. And so like just kind of tying it back with the whole generations thing. It's like, now time all of a sudden is like, oh, okay, now you got to understand, now everybody's starting to get old, you're on borrowed time with everybody. And then, like Dorothy said in the Golden Girls, it moves you up to the head of the line. And then on top of that, I'm sure you know this too. We've been seeing a lot of celebrities passing away that we spent a big chunk of our lives watching.
Sure.
Yeah. And for us, that seems like family too.
Right. Right.
So it's like, holy cow, what are we in store for next? It's just weird. But when I watching the end of Generations, I tried to understand what Picard was saying to Riker, is that time is a companion that kind of basically follows us our entire lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that time is basically what it's precious, and we make with it what we want. So if we want to be miserable and do things and waste that time, that's on us. But we can make it the best that we can, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he wasn't even upset. I was like, why is nobody upset that the Enterprise was destroyed? You watch Star Trek 3 and they were like near tears watching it disintegrate in the atmosphere of Genesis. And for the data or the Next Generation crew, they were all like in the movie, like, oh, okay, whatever, see ya. It's like, whatever. And so Picard was like, I doubt this will be the last ship to bear the name Enterprise, which really was true. But I mean, that was the whole thing with time as a companion, is that this was a good part of our lives, but we have to say goodbye. We have to move on to new things. Yeah. And it's okay.
Yeah. And I mean, we still have all of the memories of the time spent with those that have left.
Exactly. And, it's funny you say that, because I lead a grief counseling group every other Saturday at my practice. And that's one thing I always tell the people in the group, is that's one thing death can't take away, is the memories, the feelings that we experienced. We can choose to focus on a lot of those horrible things, but it will never take that stuff away. That's safe with us forever.
Mm-hmm. Keep it locked away. Recall, remember it whenever you're thinking about the person that you've lost, or, when things get difficult. Yeah. Focus on the memories, focus on the positive, the happy.
Yeah, because I mean, the other option is those memories didn't have to happen at all.
Right.
So it's, All right. So that was pretty heavy.
It was. We're definitely checking a lot of boxes here with this episode tonight.
Certainly. And I didn't think Generations was going to do that, but it did. So let me ask you this. What were your thoughts about Captain Kirk's death?
I felt that he earned it. I felt that it was, I like that he got to be the hero one last time. And, be critical to the survival of the Federation, as he had been so many times before. Having that opportunity and Kirk realizing that the him living in the Nexus and essentially having an ideal life with no worries, no cares. It's still, the call of his duty as a Starfleet captain still broke through the happiness, and he got to have one final ride into the sunset.
Absolutely. And I think he died super heroically. A lot of fans at the time were really upset with the way he died, falling off a bridge, but if you think about it, I think they're just looking at it as, oh, he should have died more heroically, but he did die heroically. I mean, he literally fell to his death on a bridge that came, that broke off its suspensions, and he died trying to save 230 million people. So, I mean, how much better could you have had in terms of his death? I think if you asked, I guarantee you, if you would have asked all those fans, how do you think he should have died that would have been better? They would have all looked and gone, because they thought they have an idea or a thought that they think it could be better, but they wouldn't know what to say. I mean, originally he was supposed to die by Soren shooting him in the back with his disruptor. That was actually filmed. And then test audiences didn't like it, so they redid it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a terrible way to go out. That is not a heroic death at all.
Mm-hmm.
To be shot in the back as your whatever.
Exactly. I mean, how many movies in Hollywood over the decades have they had people getting shot in the back, and that's how their hero goes out?
Right.
I mean, this was unique for any cinema.
Yeah, and I think everybody always has their expectations so high. Your own headcanon, the way you want it to go, is not ever. Let's be honest. The way you want it to go is probably not going to happen exactly that way.
Read all the stuff in Star Trek and Star Wars and Doctor Who fandoms online. They're always mad about something, not going the way they thought it should go. But I mean, it's just can't please everybody.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of fandom is, we are passionate about the things that we love, but at the same time, I'm not a professional writer, and I probably could not write a better ending to anything or better end to a character's life than what gets put up on screen. Do I reserve the right to be, grumble about it and complain about it online? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that I can do it better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, and I'm the same way. I can't write to save my life, So I do think that he went out super heroically. I mean, he went out fitting for Captain Kirk, I thought. So
yeah, and I love the riding horseback scene. That it still is so beautifully shot. Like it's the music. I swear I heard a variation on the DS9 theme in that music sequence when Kirk is riding horseback in the Nexus.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice that, or
I don't think I've ever noticed that. Excuse me, but I'm willing to listen to it again because I'll be honest with you, the soundtrack for Star Trek Generations is my favorite of all the Star Trek movies. So I have no problem going and listening to that again and trying to hear it.
Yeah. Yes. So this is the fanfare. Okay, so I'm looking up on Google. So yes, the only distinct theme from the film blends the theme from the first season and notes from the Deep Space Nine theme, as well as parts of Alex Courage's Star Trek theme. So it actually combines 3 different themes in that piece.
Wow. Okay, that's a neat little bit of trivia. Cool.
Yeah, so it's a version of the DS9 theme with bells, whistles, and gongs.
Mm-hmm. And which song was this when they were jumping the ravine?
So this is the fanfare when Picard and Kirk meet, and then it continues through the horseback riding sequence. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I did hear notes from the DS9 theme. I wasn't imagining it. All right. I feel validated.
There you go. Good.
So tell me, since you were 14 whenever Star Trek Generations originally came out, where were you the first time you saw it?
I was in North Huntington. It was a little theater that's still, the building's still there, but it's been closed for years. And we saw it on screen number 3. If I remember correctly, it was screen number 3. We went to the 3:00 or 3:15 showing because my dad, who was a tree cutter at the time, had work. And he ended up having to come home a little bit. He had to come over around 2 o'clock, something like that. Mm-hmm. And so we had to wait. So my twin brother and I actually spent that whole morning into the afternoon watching Next Generation reruns from season 4.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was a big thing that we did. And I remember afterward, my mom went home. My dad and my brothers, we went to Haas's in Greensburg to eat after that. And then we went to Toys R Us out there in Greensburg and bought the Star Trek The Next Generation Borg Cube. Yep.
And sadly, only one of those 3 places still remains.
Yep, exactly. You remember the North Norwin Hills?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was up on the hill, which is where right now where Aldi is.
Yep.
the Hallmark store, all of that. Yeah, that's all up there now. But yeah, the building just sits there. It was a gym for a while after the theater closed, and
Yeah,
then
Galaxy Fitness.
yep, and then I believe during the pandemic, Excella used that space as their vaccine clinic for the COVID vaccine.
Oh yeah, for at least a year that was open, if not maybe longer. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
How
now it's
about
just
you?
nothing again.
Exactly. Yeah. I just keep saying to myself, please don't tear it down. Please don't tear it down. Like that would be like destroying a piece of my heart because I've seen
Right.
so many movies there growing up,
Mm-hmm.
So, but let me ask you, what were your memories of going to see it the first time?
So I never saw it in the theater. I did not my Trek fandom didn't really begin until I was in college. So,
That's right. You said
early
that.
2000s. So the way that I would have watched Star Trek Generations would have probably been, because it was most likely during college, it probably would have been either going to the video rental store in the college town where we went to school, or it was Netflix. I got it from the Netflix DVD by mail, which had just really started up and at that time that I was in college. So it would have been renting it in some way or fashion.
Okay, I got you. All right. I'm glad that you enjoyed watching it again, since you hadn't seen it in 20 years. That's really, it's cool to get your perspective on it after so much time.
Yeah. Like I said, it's definitely having much more experience with Trek, having the benefit of time, and it definitely was more enjoyable, more poignant for me this time around.
Mm-hmm. And, there's some really interesting facts about how this movie all came about. So they started Paramount reached out to Rick Berman during the 6th season of The Next Generation to start discussing this. And it was originally Brandon Tartikoff, who was the head of Paramount Pictures, and then eventually Sherry Lansing, who wanted this movie to happen. And then they wanted it to be obviously a torch passing from the original series to The Next Generation. And so there were several people who actually came in as writers for this movie. And Ronald Moore and Brandon Braga, they were the ones who obviously won. But there was a Maurice Hurley, who I think written a couple episodes of The Next Generation. He actually came up with a script where there were some sort of interdimensional beings coming into our realm or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Picard was going to create a hologram of Captain Kirk to help him with the crisis. Obviously, that didn't follow through. I can't imagine what the kind of story that would have been, but Ronald Moore and Brandon Braga actually said that their initial head thought was having a movie poster of the two Enterprises actually fighting each other. But they said they had no idea how they can make that kind of movie work. So they realized they needed some sort of thing that spanned 2 generations, with Guinan as kind of the focal point of like bringing the two together. And that's how it started.
Yeah. So was this the first movie to establish that what Guinan's race was?
Yes. Yeah. So they left it very ambiguous, almost like Yoda.
Yes.
Like they left it like that for years. And Whoopi Goldberg explained part of what she never really was supposed to ever tell anybody, but I guess what she had said, if I'm remembering correctly, was like we knew she was already like 1,000 years old or something like mm-hmm. that. But that she was so old, she could actually be maybe a multiple great grandparent of some of the Enterprise crew members. That was kind of like the thought that Gene Roddenberry had about her mm-hmm. when they first developed the character. But they didn't mention her as an El-Aurian until this movie. Now, a year earlier on Deep Space Nine, there was an episode, I believe it was called Rivals. And it was where Quark there was this guy named Martis who actually opened up a rival bar across from Quark's. But his character was an El-Aurian, and Odo even said to Martis in the episode, "You El-Aurians are your race of listeners," and so that carried on into generations. I'm just trying to throw some fun little trivia facts about some of this. I don't know how much you know, but they did want to have all of the original cast back, but they couldn't get it really to work, so they scaled it down where they were going to have Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. So, and they also offered Leonard Nimoy the chance to direct the movie, which a lot of people don't know.
Yeah. Huh.
So, but a couple little things happened. So Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelley felt that they gave really good goodbyes to their characters in Star Trek VI. And Leonard Nimoy was even quoted as saying that he just felt that there was no real, Spock didn't serve any purpose in the story, and you could just give his lines to somebody else and it wouldn't matter. And then also, he, as a director, in the past, he used to be able to, like, he helped develop the stories, the other older movies. In this case, he realized that Rick Berman was the one making the decisions and that he would just kind of have to go along with them. So he opted out. But then they were able to get James Goonan and Walter Koenig to come in, and that's how that all came into be.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love the behind the scenes trivia of how these things come together. And I can understand why Nimoy would not have wanted to get back, behind, or get back in the director's chair again, get back behind the camera, if he didn't have that ability to shape the story.
Exactly. And he was a very elegant, very good, kind-hearted person. So, he respectfully bowed out. It wasn't like some big, chaotic thing like some people do. But there's also some other little bits of trivia. I don't know if you watched during the Enterprise B, the science officer there with the red hair. Mm-hmm. That's actress Jeanette Goldstein, and she was best known for playing Vasquez in Aliens. She also played John Connor's stepmom in Terminator 2. Yes. Okay. Now, the reason why they put her in the movie was because Vasquez was the inspiration for the creation of Tasha Yar for The Next Generation, which came out a year later.
Mm-hmm.
So, and originally the character's name was going to be Macha Hernandez because they wanted her to be a feisty Latina like Vasquez was in Aliens. Mm-hmm. And Denise Crosby got the part, so they made her more of a Ukrainian kind of background. But that's why she's the science officer in that movie, is a nod to that beginning of The Next Generation.
Oh, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Trying to think if there's anything else that might be kind of little fun facts. Not that I can really think of at this point. Well, Brandon Braga and Ron Moore, they actually said they thought that they wrote All Good Things as well. Mm-hmm. They thought that was the better script than the Generation script.
I mean, yeah, I think so. I would have to agree. But the thing is, that's a 90-minute teleplay versus a 90-minute feature film where mm-hmm. you have to make the movie have a mass appeal to the general audience, right? Mm-hmm. The Star Trek fans that consume everything, that know everything, are such a small percentage of the cinema going crowd. So you don't have where All Good Things was a culmination of 7 years of the show of TNG. This was meant to be, a closure for the original series cast, an introduction to the Next Generation cast for the general movie-going audience. Mm-hmm. So, you wouldn't have the ability to create such a poignant script for a feature film like that than you would the series finale.
Absolutely agreed. Mm-hmm. And I can't imagine them making Generations for TV. It just, I don't think it wouldn't have that grand scale that it did actually on the big screen.
No, and you would never have the Enterprise D crashing the way that it did and looking how it did if it were a made-for-TV film.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But I mean, so that's pretty much my basic spiel about Star Trek Generations. I love the movie. The movie is very special to me because I got to watch, Next Generation brought me into Star Trek fandom when I was 6. So to mm-hmm. watch it leave the small screen and graduate to the silver screen, was really cool. I was devastated when the Enterprise was destroyed because that was like my ship, and that was rough. But, we got the E a couple years later, and that was really cool too. And then the Enterprise D 30 years later gets its proper send off. You can't ask for anything better.
Right. Very true. So I think I definitely have a greater appreciation for Star Trek Generations than I did originally. I'm glad that I took the time to watch this. I'm glad that you proposed this as an episode topic for us. because I don't know if I would have gone back and watched the film if it hadn't been for this. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. In 2 years, maybe we'll do the First Contact 30th review.
And that one I've seen more recently. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I do really, I do remember one of my favorite parts of First Contact was James Cromwell as Zephyr Cochrane. So I think he plays that part very well.
Yes, he does.
So I'm excited if we do revisit that in a couple years. I'm excited to watch that again.
Absolutely.
All right, so I think that's going to do it for this episode. We are just over an hour, so I think we'll be back. Yeah, we'll be back in January with our next episode, and I think by that point we'll have a good bit of Star Wars Skeleton Crew available to watch. It may even be finished by the time that we record again. So if that's the case, I think that will be our topic of discussion for that episode. So I'm really excited for that show, by the way. I the more press, the more information that I see about it, I'm really excited. And actually, by the time that this episode comes out, the 2-episode premiere of Skeleton Crew will have already been on Disney+. It was originally supposed to be on Wednesday, December 4th, but they moved it to Monday, December 2nd for the 2-episode premiere. So
yes. Man, good. I thought it was going to be Tuesday. So, man, you just made my night.
Nope. And as we're recording, however, that is tomorrow. Monday, December 2nd is tomorrow. So, yeah, really excited. It's new Star Wars Eve, and I'm really excited to really see where this Skeleton Crew series goes, because if it's anything like what the publicity is, the hype machine is building up for it, it's going to be a very much an 80s kid venture film like The Goonies, but it's going to be in Star Wars, and it's going to be multiple episodes. And I mean, we've got Jude Law. This is going to be, I'm really, really excited for this show, and I'm hoping that this ages well, and that I'm still really excited about the show after it's run.
Oh, that's great. Just as a side note, when I was out Black Friday shopping at Target Friday, they already had a Skeleton Crew figure out of Jude Law's character.
Okay.
There's just one on the peg, but it was there.
Hey, the merchandise presence in the stores is good. If you have something coming out around the time that the thing premieres, that's a good thing. That's very good. So, all right, that's going to do it for us. So we'll see you in January for the next episode of Captain's Logs and Lightsabers. May the Force be with you.